Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will speak on the challenges to political stability in India. It's a huge topic, so I'll just be very brief and telegraphic in the points I make in these 15 minutes. Now, briefly, I would say there are four broad types of challenges to political stability in India at the present. One is secessionist insurgencies, like Kashmir, Nagaland, Manipur, and like Ulfa in Assam. Second is non-secessionist insurgencies, that is primarily say the Maoist insurgency, and secondly insurgencies which seek to break up existing states, carve out new states or new regions within states like the Bodoland area, etc. So non-secessionist insurgencies. Third is communal and ethnic violence, Hindu-Muslim riots, attacks on minorities, Christians, some places like the Bodo and Bengali Muslim riots recently in Assam. So communal and ethnic violence. So these are three major challenges to political stability. But I'll focus on only the fourth one, that is the nature of coalition government in India. That is, India has shifted from, in the first 42 years after independence, from 1947 to 1989, except for the Janata Party interregnum, there was single party majority governments of the Congress party. One overarching umbrella party ruled India, and even the Janata Party was an amalgam of, it was technically a single party, an amalgam of 4 or 5 smaller parties. So you had a system in which you had single party majority governments. Now, in the 7 consecutive elections since November of 1989, you've had 7 electoral outcomes in which no single party has got a majority in the Lok Sabha. And so necessitating solutions to hung parliaments. Now, solutions can be either you form a minority government, which can be a single party minority government or a minority coalition, or you can form a majority coalition. So we've had essentially minority and or coalition government. I'm saying and or because a minority government can also be a coalition, dependent on outside support, like the present one, since 1989. And since 1996, the 91 to 96 Congress government of Narasimha Rao achieved a majority through inducements or whatever to defections in the middle of its term. But since 1996, we've had coalition governments throughout. And all of them have been minority coalitions dependent on outside support. That is minority coalition, meaning that the outside supporting parties don't have ministerships in the Council of Ministers. They are, in that sense, technically outside but supporting. So this has been a challenge. It's been a new kind of governmental regime, and a challenge to stability can arise any time by withdrawal of members of the governing coalition or of its external partners. Like recently, 2 months ago, you had the Trinamool Congress withdrawing support from the present coalition, which then necessitated the leading party to look for outside allies to support, which it got. So now my argument is going to be that actually while coalition, and let me just add a point, that unlike in the international data set on coalitions, unlike in literature, the Indian coalitions have been overwhelming majority have been in the 10 coalitions, including that 12-day Vajpayee government we had since 1989. 8 have been minority coalitions. All have been minority governments, except the second term of Narasimha Rao. This has been exceptional in the literature. Mostly minority governments, whether coalition or single party, have been only a relatively smaller part of the solution to hung parliamentary situations in most long-standing democracies. Here, since 1989, you've had, at least to start with, all of them were minority governments. 8 out of the 10 were minority coalitions. Even the coalition itself didn't have a majority. They depended on outside support, like UPA 1, like UPA 2, like NDA, like before that the Vajpayee government and the 2 UF governments of Gujral and Deve Gowda. So even in terms of the international data, these have been exceptional. And they've been exceptional in another way too, namely they have been among the largest coalitions in the world, with 6 to 12 parties participating in the Council of Ministers. In most cases, except 1 or 2 exceptions in Israel and Belgium, you've had 2, 3, 4 parties in coalition governments. So we've had an exceptionally coalitional situation since 96. And what challenges does this pose? Has this posed a challenge to Indian democracy at a broader level and to political stability at the governmental level? I mean, at the level of stability of particular governments. And let me just step back a bit to the literature on Indian democracy. Now, there's been a sort of a cottage industry on India as a stable and sustained democracy, despite having lacking the preconditions, not being largely poor, rural, not developed, not industrialized, and so on, yet maintaining 65 years of democracy, and despite having also tremendous religious, linguistic, ethnic, cultural heterogeneity. So both poverty and extreme heterogeneity, which are run against, which are normally considered to be sort of ill-suited to maintaining or constructing a stable democracy. India has been a stable democracy despite that, and there's been a considerable literature. And most of this literature comes down to the reason that they all come in different words, different terminology, whether it's Arend Leiphart, who says India is a consociational system, whether it is Ashutosh Vashne and Asima Sinha, who argue that the vote gives the poor the capacity to put pressure on the government to produce at least partial anti-poverty kind of programs, and therefore meet the needs and thereby stabilize the system in a sort of a self-reinforcing cycle. Then there are people like Atul Kohli who again argue essentially that it is a power-sharing system. But all the literature basically says India has remained a stable democracy despite not having the preconditions, despite having adverse conditions, because the Indian system is essentially a power-sharing system. And by that they say that essentially you have a system which is federal, linguistic federalism after the 1956 reorganization of states on linguistic lines. You have clear minority rights. You have reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, historically underprivileged groups, therefore inclusivity. And you have an idea of the nation which is pluralistic, which does not entrench or establish any religion. It's not majoritarian in religious or ethnic or linguistic sense. So because of its power-sharing character of the constitution, the political system, and of the party which dominated for the first 40-odd years, and most of the other parties, the practice of politics is creative, not exclusionary. And the system is institutionally a power-sharing system. Therefore, despite not having the preconditions, India has sustained its democracy. Now, how does all this change with the challenge to political stability, to governmental stability, through very large coalitions of 6 to 12 parties, dependent on outside support, and in the period since 96? Has there been, is this a threat to the system, or is it actually in some ways reinforcing the system? And my argument is, it can be read to actually be reinforcing the system, because if you look at the data, in the period since 1989, as many as 35 parties, large, small and tiny, have had ministers in the government at the center. 35 parties plus 6 independents have been participants in the Central Council of Ministers. This is an extraordinary level of inclusivity and of giving voice in power to a range of small interests. And when you look at the fact that most of these parties are based in a single state, they either articulate state interests or they articulate the interests of specific segments within states. So a very large number of small interests, which would earlier not have a voice, have actually got accommodated in the Central Council of Ministers in the period since 1989, and especially since 1996. So in a sense, despite the size of the coalitions, the minority character, dependence on outside support, it has been the coalition phase has been remarkably inclusive, and which can be seen or read to be actually reinforcing the power-sharing character and hence the stability of India's democracy. So while it is a challenge to maintain the stability of governments, the stability of democracy has actually been reinforced. At least that is my reading, put it briefly. Then, to take that further, if you look at the external supporting parties, there have been 34 plus another 5 independents who have been external supporters, which overlaps with the first figure I gave. Some of them in some governments have been in the government, some governments outside the government supporting from outside. And then there are pre-electoral coalition partners in the main coalitions, which have not won seats, but which have been important in terms of being pre-electoral partners. Their vote share is important. Therefore, indirectly, they have some say or voice. And those have been another 6, which have not found ministerships, but which have been important pre-electoral coalition partners. Then further, you find that a range of states, at any given time, a very large number of states are ruled by parties which are not in power at the center, which are in the opposition or in whether the principal opposition or other non-aligned not aligned to the principal opposition. So you have diversity and accommodation of power at that level too, in terms of being in power in states. So the whole coalition period, though it may seem extremely messy and extremely unstable in the sense that you have a mind-boggling range of parties, large, small, and tiny, it has actually contributed, one can argue, to the power-sharing character of the system, which has been the factor which has kept Indian democracy sustained. Then you can also see that even in the management of coalitions, there has been a sort of learning process. If you look from the Janata Party of 1977 to 79 onwards, when you can see a learning process going on where coalitions have been increasingly, parties have learned how to play the game of managing them, so that the last three coalition government, NDA 1999-2004, UPA 1 2004-9, and this one, if it lasts its full term till 2014, will be three full-term coalitions. And that too, by the global data set, very large coalitions, a large number of parties. And that's because you can see a sort of learning process going on in the sense that certain devices which have been common internationally have been introduced, in the sense that you don't artificially try to unite diverse parties, which was what the Janata Party did and broke up. Then the VP Singh government kept BJP and left outside as outside supporters, despite having one-to-one adjustments in the election. Then the two UF governments also introduced, what is in the West called the Coalition Pact. There is a common minimum program, a publicly declared program of this is the program, so that it's well known that this is what these are your interests, these are my interests. They are not coinciding, but this is our compromise, and this is the public program. So that's a device used internationally to stabilize coalitions. It has been used in India too in the period since 96. And a steering committee or coordinating committee has functioned intermittently, more in some coalitions and less in others, but it has been introduced since the UF governments as a coalition management device. So there is a learning process also in the management of coalitions that is observable, including Common Minimum Program Steering Committee and consultations among party leaders, which has led to what will be, if 2014 is reached by this government, three full-term, very large coalitions, and the two minority coalitions dependent on outside support. So one can argue that also that over a process one can see that the coalition game is being learned to be played. And this is also basically reinforced the core power-sharing character of the Indian system, which has sustained India's democracy. So therefore I would basically argue that though coalition governments may seem to be mind-bogglingly messy and there are threats to governmental stability, if you talk about stability of India's democracy, it has actually contributed to it by reinforcing and further making inclusive the power-sharing character. And therefore, while management of coalitions remains a challenge to political stability, it's not something which is, despite recent developments, been something the Indian system has shown it can surmount it. The challenge now would be, but this learning process of stabilizing coalitions till you have now three almost full-term coalitions is something which has all happened against a favorable backdrop of 20 years. This has coincided with the post-91, post-reform, high-growth phase. So it has not been challenged by a serious downturn. Because again, in the international literature, if you look, coalition governments become unstable when they are hit by economic downturns. And then you have the problem of how to distribute the burden of cuts, fiscal cuts, of other resource crunches between coalition partners and on important interest groups which will be affected at least in the short term. So coalition politics in India has stabilized itself against a favorable backdrop of high growth in the last 2 decades and has not been seriously challenged by a downturn, which now seems to be, at this moment, 2012, 13, 14, it will face that kind of challenge while heading into the unfavorable part of the electoral cycle. So I think the challenge to political stability in India, at least in terms of stability of coalition governments, is going to be faced now because it is now that a downturn has to be managed by a coalition heading into an election in a fairly short period of time. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.